Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. I hope that music give you some energy. It's wonderful to see everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our third Startup Women webinar of 2025, Master Your Money Financial Foundations. I'm Isabel Nolan, Director of Programs at Startup Canada. To begin, I would like to acknowledge the land on which I am on today is located on the unceded and traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, also known as Vancouver. As we're a national organization, I'd also like to acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of all Indigenous peoples. And I encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory that you're residing on today. We welcome everyone to connect with each other in the chat. Make sure that you change the setting in your messages to everyone in the room. Otherwise, it'll just be myself and the speakers that will see your messages. And today's session is being recorded. We'll be adding it to our YouTube channel afterwards as a living resource. So if you're not familiar with Startup Canada, we're a national nonprofit that's the gateways to Canada's entrepreneurial ecosystem. We're here to connect entrepreneurs with the support and community and tools that they need to build a successful business in Canada. And Startup Women is an annual program offering support for early stage women identifying entrepreneurs across Canada through topic focused webinars like today's, industry roundtables, and meetings with startup women leaders. We know that when you support women, you truly do support a nation. Before we get started, we have a short message from our co-presenting partner, Scotiabank Women Initiative, that will play now.
The Scotiabank Women Initiative is dedicated to your success on your terms.
I'm shaping our industry's vision for the future.
I can expand my business without borrowing from my family.
I know I can face anything, thanks to my network.
I'm ready for my next chapter.
I'm inspiring future leaders.
I'm making sure my family's future is secure.
Define your success, and we'll help you achieve it. With unbiased access to capital and tailored solutions, bespoke specialized education, and holistic advisory services and mentorship. Join our community of women today, the Scotiabank Women Initiative.
Also like to give thanks to our other co-presenting partner, UPS, our ecosystem partners, Mastercard, WEOC, and Constant Contact, and as well as our large list of community partners as well. And we'll add a full list into the chat of who those partners are. So today's conversation is really focused on learning how to create a robust financial projections, managing your cash flow effectively, and determining price points for your products and your services. You're going to walk away today feeling equipped with the financial tools and knowledge needed to build a sustainable business. We've prepared some questions for our wonderful speakers. However, if you do have a question, you can write it in the Q&A box at the bottom function bar on your screen, and we will do our best to answer it live. So without further ado, I'm honored to introduce our speakers today. We have Shantae Cunningham, who is the founder and senior associate at Cobella Financial, and Yamila Franco, who is a financial professional and founder. Welcome, Shantae and Yamila. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think it would be great to give our attendees a sense of who you are, what you do, and what's kind of brought you into the financial world. So Shantae, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey and what has led you to where you are.
Absolutely. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out today. As mentioned, my name is Shantae Cunningham. I am the founder of Cobella Financial. We are a boutique bookkeeping, financial advisory, and business coaching firm that's located in Toronto. I started my business in 2018, where I had a lot of experience doing accounting, and a lot of my friends and family at the time, they were branching out and starting their own businesses. So because I was already their go-to person for dealing with the CRA and answering some of their finance questions, it really led me to branching off and starting my own firm. But I also had a passion for professional and personal finance. And that really helped me to continue on with entrepreneurship and continue running Cobella Financial, really helping new and emerging entrepreneurs to understand their finances both on a personal and professional level, and really helping to highlight and overcome some of the traumas that we have around money, whether it's not wanting to talk about money, not wanting to look at our bank statements or credit card statements, or maybe even using retail therapy as a method to self-soothe. So all of that translates into how we run our business. So I'm really grateful to be in this space and pour into all of you all today.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining, Shantae. Can't wait to dig into your expertise and experience so far. And Yamila, I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey into the financial world.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me this morning. And thank you to Startup Canada for putting this together. And anybody that showed up and you're showing up for yourself and your business. But like Isabel said, my name is Jamila. I actually live in what we know today as Vancouver in British Columbia. My journey really started in business overall in the biotech industry. I built a biotech startup, went through the whole process of fundraising, getting investors, that whole stress of when you're building a company and setting things up from scratch. And in that same process, I really was hurt. I really myself, I really thought even information there's nothing that really applied or was so relevant to help me be more financially secure to be able to run my business. So along the way, I got exposed to financial literacy, and me being an impact driven investor, a few years later, actually 2018, I decided to even start really diving more into finances, and this translated to what I do today now. So for the past 5, 6 years, actually, even I've been running a financial literacy campaign. Our goal is to educate 30 million families by 2030. You can imagine how I transitioned. It wasn't that much work because, to be fair, when you're running a business, you're either way working with finances. It's just that as a woman, as an immigrant, as a founder, I didn't know. I was not prepared financially, didn't have the tools and the equipment to be able to thrive successfully as an entrepreneur. And so, that being said, as a team, we operate across North America now. We've established partnerships with over 600 different organizations and different financial centers through which we actually offer our financial literacy program. And our team is comprised of licensed financial professionals. We help people set up everything from a debt repayment strategy to wealth transfer to tax strategy through even values driven investments as well. And to me, it's really important that regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, that financial health, that aspect has to be taken care of
Mhm.
because it impacts our mental health, it impacts our decision making progress. And so I'm really excited and grateful to be here today. I'm grateful to be able to bring value to you, but also to get to know the people that are online today.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Yamila. And if anyone's interested in getting in touch with Shantae or Yamila, we have put some links into the chat for you to be able to connect with them. And I'm sure they'd be more than delighted to speak with you after today's session. So when myself and our speakers met to go through the questions and go through, what should we touch on for today's session, Yamila brought up a great point about, even before you're thinking about setting up your business's finances, it would be important to talk about setting up your own personal finances from day one. So even before your business has become profitable. So maybe you can talk us through that process maybe, and what should entrepreneurs um, have organized, or what where should they be with their personal finances before they even think about their businesses finances.
Hmm. So on that same note, and I should have asked you, Isabel, before if I could share my screen so I can share just one slide on that.
You should
But
be
I
good.
do want to,
Yeah, if
yeah,
you'd
I'll
like.
go ahead. I wanted to highlight as an entrepreneur, there's two aspects of entrepreneurship I want to first clarify. A lot of times people become entrepreneurs out of necessity. You know, for me, even my first business was out of necessity. It's not like I woke up one day. Yes, I had a vision and I had a dream of doing something big, but then the process of building a business, the impact of a business was out of necessity because even as an immigrant, as a woman, I found that I needed to be in control of my financial future. And business was my avenue to do that. Now, on the personal side, if I have a choice, I will show you what I would do. And then if I don't have a choice and I find myself that I need to be part of the gig economy or I'm doing a side hustle, which I then turn into a company, then I'm gonna walk you through a few steps as well. But it's this financial foundation. But first of all, I always tell people we need to understand the challenges that people face so we don't make the same mistakes. And it really goes down to bad habits and poor decisions. So let me see. I believe you can see my screen.
Yes,
Very
Yep, we can
similar.
see it.
Awesome. So very similar to how you treat your business finances, you gotta understand that you and your own is as if you're a business. And that's how I've treated my personal finances, my business finances, etc. Bad decisions and bad habits and poor decisions can add up to your and business. And so you don't have a budget. You know how we talk about having cash flow projections. You need to have a budget for your company. It's the same with your personal. And I don't mean a budget to control your spending, but to understand where you're currently spending. So if you're getting started today, one, I recommend that you work with a professional, work with somebody that you trust. So just like if you go to the doctor, you know, you actually have somebody come and do an analysis. But on the right or on the healthier financial habits is even sitting down, even if it's once a month, and looking at where have you been spending? And do we have to reassess? Because if things don't align with your financial goals, maybe you realize that you registered for certain free trials and you forgot to cancel them. Maybe there's things that you haven't used in months, software and things like this. That money, you could use it towards your financial goals. Cut down on overspending, build an emergency fund needed not just for your business, but for yourself. Because typically when we start as business owners or entrepreneurs as well, self-employed, however you start, most people have either a part-time or a full-time job. And so that allows you to have cash flow until your business is able to be self-sustainable or until you're able to build an emergency fund that allows you to step out of your job and focus on your business full time. But we want to set this up so that you're not paycheck to paycheck, so you're not having increasing debt. Mind you, it is very normal to use debt when we're starting a business as well. I'm not saying debt is bad, but it is something that we can have more control over. So it's not just like I don't know what to do on my credit card is let me sit down and map things out. And this financial foundation is what I would recommend for people if you could prepare ahead of time, is that you have your proper protection in place. That refers to maybe you need life insurance, critical illness, disability. If you're a parent and you're starting a business, then I know many parents that I work with, their concern is what happens to my family? So that's when you can set up that foundation. Whatever type of insurance makes the most sense for you, I would just say understand it first. That's why financial literacy is important. That's what I want to lock in. Also, me now that I've invested in other companies, it's important for me that the founders that I'm investing on have insurance. And the reason being is because that will make sure that if there's any health issue, that they're taken care of. And maybe the business is part of that as well. If you have debt, it might be important in the beginning to address your debt with a debt management strategy. You might need to build up your credit. You might need to show that you have a debt repayment plan so that creditors can actually then give you more debt to say invest in inventory or to be able to get your credit line of credit set up. But the thing is as long as you have a strategy and it shows that responsibility piece, I know I have it here set up to bring down your debt to zero, but as an entrepreneur, we will get in debt. It's just naturally what happens. You pay for things upfront. But can we know how much we're paying in interest? Can we ask those questions? Build up an emergency fund. I'm a huge fan, okay? Because it gives you freedom. If you don't have to stay in your job unless you want to. If you have a solid fund while you build your business. So that buys back your time for a set period of time. That gives you a runway. Because the founder, you run the business until you're systematized enough to run it. And last thing, investing. Yes, your business is an investment, but I'm also a big believer of paying yourself. You may not be in a position where you can take a risk to put everything into your company. I know people that remortgage their house, clear out all their savings and their investments. I respect that. But for me as an immigrant, I send money back home and my family depends on me. So if I go all in, I won't be able to take care of my mom or my grandmother. And that's
Mm.
just the reality of also, like how we operate. So I can't go all in. I have to have a financial foundation to still take care of my family and me feel okay to take care of my business. So that's what I would want to share, Isabel.
Fantastic. No, thank you so much for that breakdown. And I think it is such a healthy thing for anyone to be doing, to be aware of your finances and know where you are. And
Mhm.
debt, yeah, not all debt is bad, and it can also be used as leverage as well. And I think just having a good grip and facing your finances head on it just really puts you in a really great, healthy, sustainable position for your business moving forward.
Yeah,
So
that was very helpful. Thank you, Yamila.
yeah.
I know
Um,
for myself that even as I was starting out, Cobella Financial was a side hustle for me. And really, I identified that extra money would be a bank for me to travel where I want to at any point in time throughout the year, but I was working full time. And I knew at some point, because my business was growing, I would have to or would have the option to branch out and do this full time. So
mhm.
because I was budgeting about 6 months before, I didn't know it was 6 months at the time that I was going to sort of branch out, but I was doing a lot of budgeting, really understanding one, how much I would need to cover all of my personal expenses, but also how much does it cost for me to run my business every month. So this
Mm,
was an indicator for me. As soon as I'm making this amount of money, then I can consider that this could be a full-time gig because I'm able to cover my personal expenses and save a little bit, as well as, again, covering some of my debts, and also be able to sustain my business as I was moving along. But I see this a lot while working with entrepreneurs through Cobella Financial, where budgeting maybe isn't your strong suit, or maybe you have a lot of debt. Maybe you don't even know what your credit score is, or you haven't looked at your credit report. And these are, again, some of the things that we bring in to our business as we're running our business. And this is the same mentality that we're using to make decisions around money within our business. And sometimes the biggest red flag of when it's like, hey, we need to settle down is maybe when CRA is knocking at your door, sending a lot of notices to you, and you don't really know how to navigate it. Maybe it's around HST and mismanagement of different funds that you've had within your business, or cash flow issues. So really the foundational pieces that Yamila had outlined in her infographic are very helpful, and things that we really do need to consider as we are making decisions for our business, and thinking of day-to-day things for our business, as well as setting those short-term and long-term goals.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Shantae. And I my follow-up to you from that was you talked about the signals that you got, or you set yourself up for the success of like kind of jumping 2 feet into your business full time. What are some other signals that entrepreneurs can look out for them to know either this is a great time for me to, go full time into my business, or other signals that, like, okay, now it's time for me to grow. So whether that's hiring, expanding, or they're seeking investment, what should they be? What are good indicators for that next move or that growth?
Some good indicators are positive cash flow. Even if it's by small amounts that you're seeing that your cash flow is increasing every month, or it's steady, then that's something to use as a benchmark. Also, if you have a consistent customer and client base, whether you have a group of customers that are on value-based pricing, or they're on a specific retainer amount, you know that each month you can at least pre-plan and forecast that for specific months, this is where your cash flow will be. And that also, in terms of collection of that invoiced services or products that you've sent out, that you're also having a positive cash flow, but also a positive accounts receivable. So all of the invoices that you sent out, they're being paid on time or fairly within a time frame that is reasonable for you, again, to pay your bills within your company, but also to sustain yourself personally.
Hmm. And, when we're talking about building out, like creating projections, for your business, how often should founders be revisiting and updating their projections? And maybe what are the triggers for a revision?
So again, this goes into a lot of what Yamila was mentioning. So if for your own personal finances, you maybe wait 3 months or 6 months to check how you're doing on a personal level with your finances, that may also be something you carry into your business. So I do recommend at least doing a check every month, similar to how you would invoice your customers and clients every month. At least once every month, do a check-in. If there's anything that changes, whether it's within the market, something changes, or you maybe lost a client that made up a large part of your revenue, that would be an indicator. Maybe if you're also considering to add new softwares. So I remember when I first started out, I had a standard operating procedure. This is exactly how it goes once I have a new client. This is where, this is the documents that would be sent out. These are the programs that I'm using. And as you grow, you also see some of your peers and those that are in the same industry using a lot of these wonderful softwares. Some of these softwares also have a big monthly bill. So I noticed that I did adopt a new software and it was supposed to free up some time, but also streamline the process for my clients and for myself on the back end. And I realized that after using this very expensive software, that it sort of removed the personable aspect of my business. So it's almost like my clients were it seemed that they were speaking to a robot almost. So once I noticed that, again, I tried to circumvent that by now putting more of my time into that specific software where I was also paying a lot of money for a software that was supposed to free up my time. So once I realized and checked my finances and realized in my bookkeeping, I was spending a lot on software, but still using more time, I decided to just cut all of the software that I was using. And from there, just go back to the bare bones plan that I had that wasn't broken and it was completely working, but it still also offered me that competitive edge that I had for my business once I first started out. And the software itself, it's a great software for those that are wanting to use it at this time. It's an accounting proposal management software called Practice Ignition. So it's a great software. It just personally for my business, it didn't fit what I was trying to do.
Brilliant, thank you. Are there any, because yeah, I'm seeing some questions come in about bookkeeping softwares. So Shantae or Yamila, are there any that you recommend for entrepreneurs to help with that piece?
For
So for
bookkeeping,
me, oh, go ahead, Yamila.
oh, well, before I answer this one, I want to say two things because I wanted to add to what Chante mentioned earlier as well. For my first business, I needed investors. Also, I hope you can hear me better. I disconnected and
We
reconnected
can.
to audio. Okay, I needed investors. I needed debt. I needed those things. For my second business and what I've been building for the past few years, our financial literacy campaign, it's been fully self-funded. So I know, for example, Shantae gave the example when you are in the positive cash flow side. But for my second business, I just went in. But in my case, I had the experience for what did not work the first time. So I was able to address it very quickly. And then even though I paid for things I was using debt, it was profitable also quicker. So the key thing I would say is you gotta know what type of business you want to build. Okay. Forget about what people say is attractive. Forget about what looks good on social media, whatever
Mhm.
sounds great in a words. And if you need a business, for example, that frees up your time, that is the key thing that I will use when looking for a software. If you know that you're a person that needs to or you want to be more hands-on at the beginning so that you can train people to take over, then I will look for software that allows for scalability with a team, or I will look at somebody to build it for me. So for bookkeeping, I still keep it so simple. We're almost crossing $1 million gross revenue, and I'm still at the QuickBooks,
Mhm.
not even like a high subscription. I don't swear by QuickBooks, by the way. My receipts, I do them by hand. I literally do my bookkeeping, and that's just because I actually sit down, I look at where I've spent my money, and I can see if there's credit cards payments that don't make sense, and then I need to ask, okay, there needs to be an inquiry on this and that. I can see reports that are created. I do have an accountant that is part of my QuickBooks account as well, and they can advise and guide me. But I personally, because taxes are so important at the point where I'm at, that I feel that it's even I need to work for. So I know like keeping things. I was never trained on bookkeeping, but what is bookkeeping is just keeping track of things. That's what I will tell myself is I'm keeping track of things to make sure that wherever my money is going is actually aligned with where my business needs to go. So if I'm looking, I'll give you an example. If I'm looking at, I set a goal, a target for my business, we're gonna financially educate 3,000 people in the month of September. Part of my budget, I know I'm gonna be spending on materials to share financial literacy. I know that for tracking now, I have QuickBooks connected to our accounts. I'm sending, well, the receipts can be sent in by even my admin, my staff, but I'm reviewing everything myself. I've made the same issue, Shantae, where, because even though we work with many people, it's very personal business, we work with people's money. So
Mm-hmm.
I used to pay for a software. I gave it a whole year. I don't even want to mention the name. That's how happy I was with it because it took away the personal aspect. It was treating people like a number, and that did not feel
Yeah.
okay either when it comes to scaling a company where we do take care. So Shanti, I see your question. Is QuickBooks the best? That's why I say I do not swear by QuickBooks. All I needed was a software that gives me a platform where I could have staff members log in and where I can easily see reports of my expenses after they're being sorted out, and that could quickly file receipts for me. Pretty sure there's quite a few softwares who do that too. So
Yes,
that's
there
why I
are.
say I don't, yeah, because I hear people talking about Mint is, and that's, I just,
Mhm.
QuickBooks was just the first one I ever learned, so I kept it that way.
I do love QuickBooks, and I do recommend to my clients to start on QuickBooks just because it is a better software to have for your business in terms of bookkeeping. You can also do some budgeting in there as well. You can compare budget to actuals. They have different functions where you can also collect money from different invoices that you send out, as well as pay staff. So I highly recommend QuickBooks Online. The fees for QuickBooks are growing every quarter. So they do tend to grow, but Yamila has mentioned as well that QuickBooks is great once you're just starting out. Even the introductory self-employed program works really well. There's also Wave if you wanted to more venture into a accounting software that is free and low cost. So that would be an option. I do also recommend Zero. However, some people have mentioned that Zero isn't as user friendly as QuickBooks and Wave are. Um, I don't agree because Zero does use more personable, friendly, and less accounting jargon when speaking with like on the screen. So those are the few that I recommend. Also, if you wanted a software for housing your receipts, you can consider using HubDoc or Dext. Those also have automatic plugins that work with QuickBooks Online. So you're able to house all of your receipts, vendor invoices digitally instead of having the paper copy where the ink tends to sometimes rub off if you've had it for quite a while. So HubDoc or Dext for housing receipts, Wave, Zero, and QuickBooks Online if you want to venture from spreadsheets to an accounting software. Those are some of my top favorite apps so far.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. There's some great resources and options for folks looking to get a handle on their bookkeeping and cash flow as well. Could you use any of those softwares to manage that, or would that be another type of software solution?
So you can use QuickBooks Online to manage your cash flow. It's not very in-depth and intuitive. However, using that as the first step is a great start.
Hmm. And we've got, I'll just mention we do have some great questions in the Q&A box, so I am keeping an eye on them and working them into our conversation. Brenda is wondering, it's more of a growth question, but they're generating revenue now. So is it better to work with a bookkeeper or bringing in a fractional CFO?
So I would say start working with a bookkeeper, but it also depends on your industry and where you are in the growth phase for your business. So I would say start with a bookkeeper. However, there are a lot of bookkeepers and bookkeeping firms, similar to myself and Cobella Financial, that both offer bookkeeping and fractional CFO services.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you
I
for the
can add
question.
to that,
For
you
sure.
know, if the goal is, for example, to get investments, they're most likely going to require you to have a fractional CFO, or that will make your life easier in putting together your documents for submitting to different investment firms. So I will look at it from that perspective, is if my intention is to be at this point, what are things that I could set up now? One thing I would say, because Shantae is right here, I personally really love working with people that I can talk with. Like, I run away
Mhm.
from companies, except QuickBooks. I run away from companies. Well, I don't have a lot of expectations from QuickBooks. The stuff it does is so small. But if I needed somebody to do stuff for me, I need to talk with that person. It's not important for me that my business is taken care of well. It just gives me that extra sense of confidence. I prefer to even say work with Shantae because I can reach out to her because she's accessible, versus maybe a company who's going to book me with a person that might not be there 2 months from now. So now there's
Mhm.
turnover and there's no continuity with who's working with my business.
Exactly.
Mm, excellent. Thank you so much. We're and I feel like we've gotten really great insights into that bookkeeping, cash flow management, different softwares. We do have someone who's asking like I guess like a foundational question in terms of setting up a budget and setting up their projections and all of that. And they're learning how to read their financial statements and through that wanting to set up a budget, but not quite sure where to start. So, Shantae, Yamila, recommendations on how they can go about setting up their budget.
So with setting up a budget, just as an introductory, right at the beginning, take out a piece of paper. I always say take out a piece of paper because once we're writing things down, it tends to download better within our brain. So simply just list out all of your income for that specific month, all of your expenses, and we really want to make sure that we're using realistic values. So if you have to go directly to your last month's bank statement, credit card statement to outline exactly how much you're spending in specific areas, what your main needs and wants are as you have spent them in the past month. Write all of those down. There's a lot of great apps that connect with your bank account as well. So there's one with TD and there's also one with RBC that can group all of your, let's say, like meals and entertainment, all of the amounts that you spent on travel and Ubers, all of the software and subscriptions that you've spent for that specific month, and give you like a full total. So if you aren't doing any bookkeeping right now, and also if you wanted to just start out with budgeting for your own personal finances, really just outline your expenses, needs and wants, all of your income from all sources, as well as your debt. So once you outline all of that, you can see one as a snapshot for yourself. Are you overspending or are you underspending? Is there may be some areas that you don't need those subscriptions, as Yamila mentioned, or if you're paying into things that you aren't really using a lot of, or you're not seeing the full value of. And then also from there, you'll be able to take some next steps either to decrease your expenses, but also have a plan for debt repayment. And I think that would also be another great session, Isabel, to discuss for an hour of budgeting and outlining that for those that are just starting out or even want to sharpen their skills on budgeting.
Excellent. Yes, I can definitely take note for and this is the thing when we're doing these webinars is you know we'll do an overall topic, but there are so many pieces nitty-gritty pieces to these conversations. Uh
Mm.
there's lots to uncover. So we'll always be hitting on some sort of financial topic with this programming. I want to keep mindful we're about 20 minutes or so left in this, and I want to get through some more questions. We've got some great questions from our attendees as well. I do want to touch a little bit on cash flow, and managing cash flow, and maybe there's struggles that early stage startups are going through. Yumila, what are some practical strategies that can help founders keep their cash flow healthy, even in those early days?
Okay, so let me know if you can hear me well. You can hear
Yes.
me, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I will confess. Oh, you were frozen. You are back. So I will answer, but I also want to weave in some of the questions I've seen in the
Yeah,
question
please.
and answer section. So there's one that says, what advice will you give to a beginner entrepreneur who is not working? What about upskilling? I wouldn't, that's a really good one too. So number one, even with the budgeting piece, as a new entrepreneur, a lot of questions that I see here today are about how do you do this? How do you do that? And you keep hearing from Shantae, from myself, that there's like 100 different ways of doing it, but they all take you to the same place. So my first advice is whatever you do, can you commit to doing something consistently? That's it. If you're going to consistently do your budgeting paper, the exercise is not really in, oh, I got my numbers, is that it teaches you to think differently and be aware of where your money is going. And you can readjust from that understanding. If you're going to do, because even both of us, we work with clients. We can even meet you. You want a consultation? Just book a time. It's fine. We'll meet people. I even love talking. If anybody wants to go into business and you just want to talk, I love sharing my experience with people. But it goes back, can you do something consistently? Because now
Mhm.
you can also go online, budget templates. If you don't want to build your own, you can just download one. But the challenge I see is that people do something once and never do it again. And so that's my one advice. If you're going to go out and network, somebody ask, how do you do it? You have an example right here. You're joining this event online, but maybe you go to events in person. Maybe you go to online communities. But whatever you choose to do, can you do it every week, every month? And can you stick with it for an entire year? Basic principle. It's just like going to the gym. And
Mhm.
so my thing is when I see a lot of new entrepreneurs, it concerns me because everybody's trying to figure out how to do something. Even when there's an answer, people don't do it long enough, or they don't do it consistently enough for that to show up in their business. So that is that piece is it's on consistency and discipline.
Mhm.
Entrepreneur, you don't have to work 12 hours. If you can consistently do 3 hours a day in your business, that's gonna help you build a foundation and a system so that you can scale up your business. Just to give you an example in that case.
Very true. And you can even set time in your calendar. So maybe if you like to go out to eat somewhere once a month and you maybe go by yourself, sometimes that's the time that I take for myself. I'll bring my two notebooks and I'm enjoying my meal. That's also an expense that I've built into my budget, but also now going over my finances, going over my goals and things that I wrote down that I wanted to achieve by the end of this month, or things that I wanted to at least get into motion, or also analyze like what's my habits been? Am I following some of the same processes to even get to this goal itself? So set some
It's
time in your calendar if you're
yeah.
not going out to eat, even if you're doing it as something that you do right after you invoice your clients towards the end of the month. Just really do that check-in. And as an entrepreneur, sometimes it can feel a little lonely, especially if you don't really have a team or if you work from home and it's like a one-person show. So just setting those accountability markers in your calendar that it's like I've made this promise to myself and I'm at least going to give my business or myself and my well-being an hour or 2 hours of my time, just to make sure that I'm setting myself up to jump into the next month and feel confident while doing it, decrease my feelings of like shame around money or even imposter syndrome that comes up for a lot of entrepreneurs throughout the journey.
Mm. And it's a practice, really, I guess, is what you're saying is, and just as much as practice, if you do mindfulness or exercising, there are different practices that you're giving to yourself. So this is more like the financial fitness, I guess, for
Mhm.
yourself. And it,
One
yeah.
thing it's about with that thing too. It's a practice because the skill of an entrepreneur, I believe we are professional problem solvers. That's why we get paid. When Shantae fixes her clients' problems, and when she does it with multiple clients, that's when her company does better. When
Mhm.
everybody here online, when you're solving a problem and you provide that to multiple people, you get to bigger markets, you get paid. And so, but for that, it's so important how we think in business. because that's why I'm so afraid to give you a one way to do something. Because what if that's not the best way? But can you learn how to think differently about problem solving and how to
Mm-hmm.
get data, how to get your details? That is why consistency is so important because as an entrepreneur, you're building that muscle of being resourceful and problem solving and learning how to think outside of the box, among other things. So if you can commit to developing that mindset and that different skill, I think in a job and in school, we're really taught to follow A, B, C, D. But then when it comes to business, it doesn't, it's like, well, that's it. There goes my
Different.
degree.
Yeah.
But here we are, you know?
Mhm.
Hey,
I
by
will
the
take
way,
that
I'm a
title.
biologist. I say it. I say it as a joke, but I am really. I just never worked in my field. I went straight into business. I don't even remember when I graduated. I've never used it. But, I just like to say it because I'm proud of that.
Mhm, mhm. And I think sentiments I'm getting from both of you is uh the consistency element of doing it, but also deciding whatever you do, like sticking with what works with you. Like for you, it works for you to be doing your receipts by hand and the process that you've built out for yourself and your team. And Shantae, with you trying out that software and actually realizing it's not really worth my time. So I think finding a solution and a process that works best for you in what
Hmm.
you're doing and the time that you have, because that will probably make you more consistent with it if it's something that just innately works for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's some questions here. I know Alicia is asking advice on being a beginner entrepreneur who isn't currently working full time. They're seeking full-time employment currently, but they also are considering going completely into their business in teaching yoga and meditation through an online subscription model. Um, so what advice do you have for them, not having that full-time employment just yet, but looking to go all in on their business? Anything that they should keep in mind?
I can use a case model, which
Yeah.
is for people. I always, when I see people that want to do with subscription, I just look at what have other businesses done and what has worked. I'm very much on there's a fine line as entrepreneurs, which is what we will love to do versus what we have to do. I'm a big fan of we just have to do whatever we have to, whether I like it or not, whether I like a portion of my work or not. So the idea might be great, but is it going to be profitable or not? So here's what True Earth did. So I was once in a business accelerator program, and the founder came and spoke with us. He showed us how before they launched, that was the question, do we go all in or not? So
Hmm.
they needed to do some market validation first. They needed to see, will people buy what we provide? They put out a survey, and basically they spread out the survey to, I don't remember exactly how many people, let's say over 1,000 people, or maybe at least over 500. How they did it doesn't matter. Knocking on doors, email list, posters, going to businesses, that's just outreach now. Now, of that, they found that they had a few hundred people that registered and said that if this product was being provided, they would actually pay within a certain price range. So now they had basically a mailing list of people saying, yes, I want to buy this. People saying how much they're willing to pay on a price point. And third, at that point, they didn't even have a product. But that gave them the validation to say, okay, we're going to go and do the laundry strips, not the liquid laundry detergent. We're going to do laundry strips. And that's how True Earth started. So whether it's a yoga or a restaurant or a software, I personally think I have great ideas all the time. I'm not saying this is the case. I make fun of myself all the time, guys, okay? And everybody,
Idea
I
machine.
make what?
I said idea machine.
Yeah, but they're not great all the time. That's why I say I make fun of myself, everyone, because I think it's great, but I don't know. And so that's where it's so great that if you have a community, if you're not part of Startup Women, I suggest find out what else is happening. Show up to more meetups or to events because there's an example of where you can come and also validate your idea. But I just wanted to use that as an example of what I would do. But before I go into something new, I may like it, but I don't know if people will like it. Now, if I have a business that is successful, then I can still go back to my original idea, maybe not do it just for the profit, but do it because I enjoy it. But I still need to set up that revenue stream so that I can take care of myself and then do whatever I want.
Mhm.
I
Wonderful. Thank
agree.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people and entrepreneurs that are on a similar pathway where they're not necessarily working full time, but also wanting to venture into their business, both feet in, and really just outlining a business plan and then doing like a test go to market strategy. So if let's say there's many events that are happening either outdoors or indoors, depending on the season, maybe you can reach out to the event organizer and test your idea in the market. So now maybe you would be offering some of your services for free or for low cost. However, now you have a group of people that have tested out the products. You're also able to get some images for social media with their permission, of course, or images for your website, but also seeing the traction and really being able to speak to your customer or potential customers in person to see what they liked about it, what were maybe some of their favorite parts. Would they come out to an event like this again? But also, would they now follow you on your journey and sign up for your subscription model? So that could be a good go-to-market test that you can just really see if it has a lot of market feasibility. As Yamila mentioned, we have a million and one ideas that come to our mind every day. I know for myself, my friends call me an idea machine because I will always come out with a brand new idea and say like, we should do this. And they're like, we don't have time. So it could be, again, just testing the market with your product and just, or your service and seeing the feedback that you get from that. And sometimes that alone will fuel you and give you the passion to really put pen to paper, consider some of your next steps, and then also budget and use some of your financial foundations and really analyze that for yourself and for your business.
Great. Alicia, I hope that that answers your question. I think there's some really good advice from Yamila and from Shantae there. I'm just going through our Q&A box to see other questions that might be applicable to everyone here today. There is a question around taxes. Do we feel comfortable touching on that subject, either Shantae or Yamila?
Very briefly.
Yeah. So, and we can keep it maybe, uh, not vague, but just sort of like an overall briefing, I guess, in terms of where to start filing for your taxes. Are there tools for small businesses? Ones anything including free ones? Would you recommend business owners do it themselves or have an accountant specifically when there is no revenue?
So there are a lot of entrepreneurs that do file their taxes on their own, but there are also a lot of entrepreneurs that reach out to an accountant, even if that's maybe the only time per year that they reach out to an accountant or tax advisor to get their taxes filed. And sometimes this could be you're maybe not as confident in bookkeeping that you've done, or maybe you need a review of some of the bookkeeping that you've done. But there are a lot of different free programs to file your taxes, one of which is Wealth Simple Tax. That's probably one of the more intuitive and user-friendly tools that I've used and also taught others how to use on filing your taxes for yourself. However, I only recommend that if there's not a lot of complexities to your tax situation. So if you have maybe like a rental property or an Airbnb, or you're writing off your car and things and other assets like that, I would reach out directly to an accountant or a tax advisor to file your taxes, just to make sure, again, that you are getting as many benefits and credits applied on your tax file as possible. Sometimes I say the worst thing you can do is file your taxes and then now have to go back every year, every few months to be like, oh, forgot this large receipt, or forgot I'm writing this off, or I forgot this T-slip. So it's really great that once you do it the first time, that you've really done all the work to prepare for your taxes. And of course, you can go back and make changes, but we don't want to raise any flags with CRA, because if you are changing a lot of your business bookkeeping that you're submitting to the CRA for your taxes, that gives them an indication that maybe you don't really know what you did with your bookkeeping, or your bookkeeping wasn't accurate, or some of your finances, maybe there's some holes in there. And that's when they may send you a letter for review or, God forbid, an audit.
Mhm. Excellent. Thank you. And I saw a question come into the chat there from Antora. Should I have an accountant or tax advisors? That's really what Shantae was kind of talking about there. So even if you're just reaching out to an accountant once a year, it could be a useful tool for you. And also a reminder, we will put this recording onto our YouTube channel. So if you missed the beginning of our conversation, you can go back and watch the recording in a couple of days. All right, so to close out our conversation, if there's, for folks in the room now or anyone watching the recording afterwards, what are some first financial habits that every entrepreneur should learn when they are starting off when it comes to their finances? Yamila?
I would say pay yourself first. And it's counterintuitive. I understand everywhere I go, even in pitching competitions, it's as if as founders we don't already give enough to the fact that we're building, but we're also women. And I believe that being a woman and being in business brings other layers of responsibilities, fortunately and unfortunately, compared to other people in business as well. So I gave my example as an immigrant. That's why I can't avoid the fact that I do have a family that I'm responsible for. And so even if I want to go all in and say, yes, I'm selling my everything I own, I can't. So if you can build a habit of paying yourself first, it doesn't mean pay yourself a salary, but even if say you are however you're funding your okay, let me tell you what mistake I made. When I started my business, I still kept some part-time jobs to be able to make just enough to pay for my rent, food, but really bare minimum, internet. So it was just the bare minimum to be able to just survive so that most of my time could go to my company. My mistake was that I did not include in my plan the fact that I should be building, again, I said, an emergency fund, my protection, my investments. So even if it's an extra $200 that I can take every month just to include in what I should be putting away for myself, that makes a difference. Because this is money that is purely for your own financial security. And as a founder, because our business relies so much on ourselves, it's important that we have a clear state of mind and that we are taken care of, that we can, luckily where we live, because we live in this country, a lot of things are actually, we have a lot of opportunities, which I love. Even say you live in a city, the standard of living is way better than in many other places, which makes it easier to be an entrepreneur. So that's why I don't ever want to forget that part of paying yourself. Even when you build your business, pay yourself in terms of savings, in terms of feeling financially secure, so you can show up better for your business.
Excellent. And Shantae, how about yourself? First financial habits.
So some of the first financial habits is, as a bookkeeper, separate your personal expenses and your personal income from your business expenses and business income. Do your bookkeeping, even if you're using an Excel spreadsheet and you're not ready to venture off into an accounting software. But really just do your bookkeeping. As Yamila mentioned, once you do all of those things, again, with budgeting, you know exactly how much you can pay yourself. And then also you can move yourself up as a priority on that list now. So now in the needs is I need for my business to be able to pay myself at least this amount. Again, it doesn't have to be an entire salary that you're paying yourself, but it's something that you're now, it's like give back to yourself as the owner for all the time and energy and passion that you put into the business. And once you're laying those main financial pieces, again, just continue checking in with yourself, holding yourself accountable, but also being realistic with yourself. So sometimes you may be on par with your budget. Sometimes, again, you may not be on par with your budget. I know for myself, this last summer, I had a great time and I was not on par with my budget. But in September, I'm going to be on par with my budget. But everything, again, in my business was taken care of. My clients are happy. So that is an amazing thing for me as well. And don't wait until tax season to start worrying about taxes. As soon as we're getting into Q4 of preceding year, start preparing stuff for your tax accountant, or if you're choosing to do it yourself, maybe book a consultation and figure out some of the questions that you want answered, so you can do your taxes on your own. Set those large goals, and I really like to tell people in the workshops that I facilitate that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if there is a grant that you haven't applied for, answer is never going to be yes if you haven't applied. There's also, again, pitch competitions that you're able to enroll yourself into as well. There are a lot of other government programs. So let's say you have a need and you want to hire a lot more staff. That doesn't necessarily have to all come out of your own pocket as a business owner. There's maybe government programs that you can use to hire those that are in college or university or going back to school, or in high school that have a co-op program that you're able to give some of your knowledge and expertise to, but also give them real world experience. Because a lot of the times, and I know for myself in learning accounting and bookkeeping, of course, things follow the textbook examples, but as it happens in the real world, it's nothing compared to the case studies that I've seen in the textbooks, which is great for me because I get to build those case studies as I'm running my business. But really just figure out what works for you, and every small step forward is a step in the right direction and will help move you closer towards your goal. So it doesn't have to be a big leap today. Today could be a small step. Tomorrow can be a medium step.
Excellent. Closing pieces of advice from both of our speakers. Thank you, Shantae and Yamila. All right, that concludes today's webinar. I know it went by super quick. These hours always do. And so many great nuggets of information and advice from our speakers. So thank you so much, Shantae and Yamila, for your time today. Attendees, thank you so much for taking the time as well out of your busy schedules to come listen to us, and hopefully you are walking away feeling a little bit more equipped with financials. If you are interested in continuing the conversation with Shantae or Yamila, we have put their information into the chat, or you can reach out to either of them on LinkedIn to see if you need to book in with them and see if you want to learn more about how you can get control over your financials. As you can see, I've launched a feedback poll for everyone. It should have popped up on your screen. I would appreciate you taking the time to complete it. Super quick. It just gives us a great idea of how you enjoyed the session so we can better understand and better prepare for future programming as well. Shantae and Yamila, I'll give you one more thank you as well. It takes a lot of energy and effort to show up to these, prepare for these, and then also to wind down after them as well. So I'm incredibly appreciative of both of you coming and joining us today.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Startup Canada. Let's connect. So connect with me on LinkedIn. And again, thank you so much, everyone, for showing up today. That was another step forward that you made for yourself. So congratulate yourself on that one.
Thank you so much. All right. I'll just leave the feedback poll open for a few more moments. If you're interested in coming to another session, we are hosting an industry roundtable for women in hospitality and tourism on September 24th. We will put the link in the chat for that as well if you're interested, but also make sure that you follow along our newsletter for the most up-to-date news on the program. Thank you all so much again, and it looks like everyone has answered. So we'll close it out, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.